So seriously, you're going to want the books. You're going to need the books. It's a blessing for you to have these books. It's a great way to stay educated. So there's plenty, and one is I don't want to take any home. Okay, so you can bless me in that regard. But they're very simple, very powerful. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. Every citizen should read that. And then the proper role of law enforcement, what every cop should know, and what every citizen should know, what every cop should believe. So definitely get those books before you leave here tonight, and don't wait till the end, because there's going to be a big crowd then. So thank you so much for having me, and I'll turn the time over to Gary.
Okay, don't let him kid you, because he doesn't take them home. I get to take them home, box them up, and mail them back to him. So.
Oh, good. Wow, you're going to do that. Okay, great.
Or either that, or I'll take them home, and if anybody wants them after tonight, they're twice the price. So, okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Oops, switch glasses here. Bear with me a minute. That's what happens when you get old. So, some housekeeping items before we get started. My name is Gary Shaver. I'm one of the people that helped organize this, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. The turnout has been well worth the effort to do this, and I can assure you, after listening to Sheriff Mack this morning from 9:30 to 2:30 this afternoon, that you will not go home disappointed. This one isn't going to run quite that long, but I can assure you will not go home disappointed. If you do, you shouldn't have come. So he's going to speak about 2 hours tonight and take questions and answers from the audience. And after that, I'm going to have some closing remarks, and I would ask you to patiently stay for those, if you would. Not going to be more than probably 10 minutes. I'm not going to, one of the things I will tell you is, and Sheriff Mack already talked to you about his books, but the one book, the County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, is really a great book. And that's really why he's here tonight, because really Sheriff Mack is going to speak about the county sheriff and being America's last hope. And it's sad that our country has come down to that, but I personally believe that this is really the truth. We have some yard signs back there. The guy that's standing up at the table, Dave Burns, came up with that idea from Lawler and asked me what I thought. And I thought it was a great idea, and so he took the time to get them made. They're $15, and Dave doesn't want to take any home tonight, and I don't want to take any home. So we'd like to see these all over Northeast Iowa, and that's a way of showing your support to our sheriffs and showing them, too, that we want them to be constitutional sheriffs. And there's a difference between a county sheriff and a constitutional county sheriff, and you will learn that tonight. Cell phones, if you could, please put them on silent. If you don't know how to put them on silent, give them to your neighbor. So, on restrooms, out and to your right is a men and women's, and the men going to men, and the women's going to women. And if you can't figure that out, over to the left is a non-name one, but make sure you lock the door. After we're done, we're going to have some coffee, water, cookies, bars available to you. And again, we don't want to take these home because I don't need them. So we'd like you to stick around, and Sheriff Mack will sign books. And the same thing, I don't want to take those books home either. So he'll sign some books and visit with you. So if you would be so kind to stick around and help us get rid of the bars, that'd be great. So before we go any farther, I'm going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to give some opening remarks here, and then I'm going to... What's that? Open what? Oh. Go ahead, Sheriff Mack. You're really good at it. Yeah. No, Sheriff Mack, trust me, is really good at it. Trust me.
Seriously, who would like to volunteer to give the opening prayer? Any volunteers? We don't have a pastor here? All right, I'll do it. Let's bow our heads in prayer, please. Our dear Father, which art in heaven, really grateful to be around so many good people. Really grateful for the blessings that we've received in our families and in our country. We ask you to bless us, that we'll be dedicated to the holy cause of liberty, that we will find solutions that are peaceful and effective, that we will restore America to its proper stewardship, the Constitution that you put here for us. Bless us tonight, that we will feel the spirit of freedom, which we all know is the Spirit of God. Bless us, bless our families, heal our country, and heal our hearts. We pray humbly in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Sheriff Mack. Again, I want to thank you for coming. There's a lot of people that helped me put this on, and when you thank those people, invariably you forget to mention somebody, but I'll do my best I can, and if I forgot somebody, I sincerely apologize. So I want to thank Tom and Carol Crandall from Volga, Iowa. They were great in helping put this together, and we had a couple meetings, and they've been excellent to help us get the word out and everything. So we had a great turnout this today. I shouldn't say a great turnout. I felt we had a good turnout with the sheriffs this morning. We had about 18 sheriffs. We had 5 sheriffs and and then we had the rest were deputies and a police chief and a jailer, a couple jailers here. So I was happy with the turnout. I expect probably a dozen tomorrow, and anything over that I would be really pleased with. So anyway, very good session. There's a book over there called The David Answer that has been very popular with the sheriffs. I gave out a lot of those to sheriffs. I probably gave out over 70 books to the sheriffs, and they really liked that book. Where I was going with this is that my wife had given some to a friend of ours, Mary Ganson from Cresco, and Mary Ganson's in her 80s, and she took 2 books down to her sheriff in Howard County, 2 down to the sheriff in Chickasaw County, and 2 over to the sheriff in Winneshiek County. So when I called these sheriffs to talk to them about coming, my job was a whole hell of a lot easier because they'd already started reading the book and were on fire with it. So thank you, Mary, for doing all that work. Greatly appreciate it. Garrett and Shelley Crandall put together a post for Facebook. I'm not a Facebook person. They did an excellent job in getting that out, and I think that's really helped our attendance tonight as well. Stan and Jane Preeb from the Raleigh Independence area did a lot of work getting flyers and word out in Buchanan County area and to the Buchanan County Republicans, so greatly appreciate that. Gene Averoff of Alameda County did the same about getting information out up there. He's got a great email list, and he got that out to a lot of people. And Merle Kennan from Elkader, same thing, has a long email list, so thank you for that. Mike Lacoste from Waverly helped get the message out in the western areas in the Waverly area. And Larry Kubley put flyers out in the Edgewood area and the local papers, and so thank you for that. And the Dyersville Tea Party, who is here tonight, we have Dave Kramer from Dyersville Tea Party and Paul Kurt, who's just helping put chairs up and is doing the video tonight. Put the word out through the Dyersville Tea Party and a lot of connections there, and they do a great job over there with that Tea Party. So when we get done tonight, there's going to be a DVD out for that. If you want a DVD, let us know, and we'll try to get it out to you. Or it's going to be downloaded on the internet. So if you had an email, we'll try to get it, let you know where that's going to be at on the internet. And last but not least, I want to thank my wife Pamela, who's worked tirelessly with me to try to get this information out, and was my partner here to bounce things off. helped this morning a lot with the food and just everything. So thank you, Pamela, for all the help that you've given me on this. So before we get started with Sheriff Mack, I want to express my concerns about where we're at as a nation. And I believe most of you are here tonight because you have those same concerns, or you wouldn't be here. I believe our nation is in a great state of peril. After the 2020 election, I personally believe that we're not much better than a banana republic. Our election integrity is lost. And additionally, I didn't believe we had fair elections. And regardless if we would have had, there's no fixing D.C. I don't care who we send to D.C., they're not going to fix it. And even if we could control who we sent there, and I think that's in great question now. So I will waste no time or energy personally on any national elections in the future until such time we have the confidence that our electoral process has been restored. And frankly, I don't expect to see that in my lifetime. With the recent plethora of unconstitutional executive orders already in place and the potential for others to be implemented in the very near future under the newly installed administration, along with the failure of the federal government to control the border situation, I perceive the danger to the average citizen is great and that our constitutional rights are being infringed on with only the potential to get worse. In addition, BLM and ANIFA are essentially running uncontrolled wherever they deem they want to start an event, and there's no arrest or anything with them. So fortunately, where we live right now, they haven't bothered us, but we can't assume that they're not. During my career, I was always too busy to get involved. I thought I didn't have the time, and the attitude was, what could I affect anyway? Well, I surmise that there's a lot of me's out there in the audience, and together we now have what we wrought because we didn't get involved. A couple weeks ago, ironically, I ran across a statement by Plato, who lived 300 years BC, before Christ. I thought it was very timely and appropriate. And it's that poster right there, and it says, if you do not take an interest in the affairs of your government, then you are doomed to live under the rules of fools. I mean, 2,300 years ago, and here we are today, living under the rules of fools. But before I introduce Sheriff Mack, I want to indulge you to listen to a 4-minute video by Ben Domenech of the Federalist. And it's the same thing. I ran across this about 2 weeks ago, getting ready to prepare remarks and trying to figure out what I wanted to say here. I've never heard of Ben Domenech before, and it's a powerful monologue, and it goes to the heart of where we are as a nation today.
Can we turn the lights down?
Yeah, can we turn?
What does it mean to be a nation? It's a question we have to ask ourselves in a moment when so many people seem open to the possibility of a national divorce. A nation isn't just a random group of people who happen to be in the same place at the same time. It has laws and borders and values, and it isn't born, it is made. The people who made America in the first place were a group of a little more than 2,000 patriots who crossed an icy Delaware River on Christmas night in 1776. They were down to the end, ravaged by a hard winter, deserted by friends, looking like just one more pathetic colonial rebellion put down by the mightiest empire in the world. And then Thomas Paine published The American Crisis. You'll recognize the opening words. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Within a day, George Washington had the message read aloud to his troops. Within a week, they embarked on one of the most daring raids in military history. And what they did changed the world. I come to you now in the midst of another American crisis, one where we cannot afford to tolerate summer soldiers and sunshine patriots. They like to call themselves happy warriors, but so often the only wars they want to fight are for lower capital gains taxes, tech deregulation, and of course, paying for all those pricey ones overseas. As for the wars here at home, the ones that matter over the very culture of the nation, when it comes to those, they fade away. They'll leave those to you, the people. The crisis we face today goes to the heart of what kind of nation we will be. As in 1776, it is a question of who rules. Is it the globalist tech oligarchs, Hollywood executives beholden to China, the race radicals who dominate our universities, a fundamentally anti-American media, the frail, feeble politicians, and the Marxist children of the left? Or is it us, the American people, a great people, a free people, who above all care not for money or power, but for the nation we love? In 1842, an aged veteran of the American Revolution named Levi Preston was asked why he fought. Was it the Stamp Act, the tax on tea, the philosophical principles? He replied, "Young man, what we meant in going for those redcoats was this: we always had governed ourselves, and we always meant to. They didn't mean we should." The same challenge faces us today. The forces arrayed against the survival of the United States of America, foreign and domestic, do not believe you have the capacity, the ability, or the right to govern yourselves. They work every day to scare you into silence, indoctrinate your children, gaslight you with falsehoods, direct your future, and stamp out your freedom. Understand, it is the totalitarian left that wants a national divorce. They want racial strife that burns down your cities. They want envy and segregation and division that pays for their million-dollar homes in Topanga Canyon. They want to demolish Mount Rushmore, make you pay for abortions, and force your daughters to compete in sports against men. They want to teach your children to hate cops, the anthem, the flag, and everything you were raised to love and respect. They want to destroy our great American experiment, a thriving, capitalist, multi-ethnic republic of God-fearing people for all time. But we're on to them. We're not going to let them. And together, we're going to show them what free people do.
So there's no coincidence, no coincidences when these things popped up. Between the Plato quote and Ben Domenech, they were meant to be at this point in time. Thank you, turning lights on. So I'm going to introduce Sheriff Mack. For those of you who don't know him, I'm going to give you a brief overview of his history from the time he was a county sheriff on. He spent a lot of time in law enforcement before he was a county sheriff. And he was a county sheriff in Graham County, Texas, in the 1990s.
Arizona.
I'm sorry, Arizona. Been a long day. Arizona, and when he was sheriff, the Brady Bill passed the U.S. Congress. The Brady Bill was named after James Brady, who was the second person to be shot on the Reagan assassination. And part of that Brady Bill required that the county sheriffs throughout America help the feds enforce the Brady Bill. And Sheriff Mack knew that was unconstitutional. He had studied the Constitution, he knew it, and he knew it was illegal. And so he, along with 6 other sheriffs, filed suit against the Clinton administration. And eventually it wound its way to the Supreme Court, and they won a 5-4 decision, which established the sovereignty of the county sheriff and the sovereignty of the 10th Amendment. And I'll leave it at that because Sheriff Mack can expound upon it a lot better than I can. So with that, Sheriff Mack went on to found the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And for the last 25 plus years, he's gone around throughout the United States speaking to both sheriffs like he did this morning and to the public like you. And so I'm going to introduce Sheriff Mack. He's a true patriot. I would like to compare him to General Flynn, but really I want to compare General Flynn to Sheriff Mack. That's how much I think of him. So please welcome Sheriff Mack, a true American patriot.
get set up. Thank you. Thank you so much. Man, this is an impressive-looking crowd. Wow.
You think I was going to let you down?
We were impressed. Never. Gary's done a lot of work on this, and the good crowd that we had with law enforcement this morning was very indicative of that. I was in Idaho just a few days ago, and the same amount of sheriffs and public officials were invited, and only one came. No sheriffs. And so, but the week before that, I was in Reno, and 9 sheriffs came. So I guess Idaho just didn't get the advertising and the work into it or something. I don't know what happened, but it's really gratifying to see how many. Does he have this here for me? This needs to be in that somewhere, or I need, that's the presentation there. I don't know what that other one is.
Oh, I know what it is. It's a remote. Sorry about that. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Just touch it.
And
Just here. There you go.
nope, that's not it. Time out.
Documents.
Presentation. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Which one?
And the
Which one?
Constitution 2016. Here we go.
You just have to touch that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think I got it. There, okay, we're ready, yay. Okay. So, I've been really traveling a lot, and like I said, I just got back from Idaho, and then came here, and then Saturday I'll be in Lander County, Nevada. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's Battle Mountain, and it's halfway between Salt Lake City and Reno on I-80. And so that county called me about 2 months ago and said that they wanted to be a member of the CSPOA. So I said, well, I'm not understanding this. I'm not following this. You mean you want everybody in your county to be a member of the CSPOA, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, which, by the way, is just fine because everybody can be members. All of you, in fact, every one of you should be a member. Why? Because we're taking this peaceful solution all across the country, and we take it as far as we get donations, and memberships are donations. And we've been really blessed with that. And I was teaching school just until December. I was going to teach school another 3 or 4 years, but I was getting so busy with this, I quit my job, and I'm only doing this full time. So this is what I do. This is what I've been called to do, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is what I'm doing. And as far as peaceful and effective solutions go, there's only maybe 2 or 3, and I can't tell you what the other 2 or 3 are. This one I know is. I've seen the evidence, I've seen the proof of a sheriff standing against tyranny, and every time a sheriff does that, he wins. Every single time. I can't guarantee that in the future, but what we've done in the past is any indication, then it looks pretty darn good. And the sheriff can do 2 things. He can stop federal agents and state agents who are trying to abuse you and victimize you. And he can also make Washington, D.C. irrelevant to you. He simply does not allow them in. So, I'm going to show you amazing things. Oh, by the way, is anybody here that came this morning? Any peace officers or sheriffs? They were invited, but they said, is it going to be pretty much the same? And I said, yeah, except there's going to be a bunch of people. And so, okay, that's great. So why do you need to know basically the same stuff I gave them? Because you are their boss, and you need to know what they're supposed to be doing, and you need to know what they're supposed to know. But did you realize that the sheriff it only answers to you? He has no other supervisor, and he has no other boss. You are the sheriff's boss. And every 4 years, you do a review of the work he's done, and you decide whether or not to keep him as the appointed sheriff. You appoint him. It's the electoral process, of course. But you appoint him every 4 years. You decide who your sheriff is going to be. And you know what that is? That is a definition, or at least an example, of a constitutional republic. The people choose is what makes us a republic. And we have a rule book within that republic that's called the Constitution. We get back to the Constitution, we save America. We get sheriffs to keep their oath of office, we do that tomorrow. And that's why this amazing solution is so vital and important to each one of us, and thus the reason we're here tonight. So I want to tell you, though, the miracles behind this. And by the way, if you came here with a question, and if I don't cover it in this, because I really don't want to do question and answer at the end. If you have an amazing question that you really have to get to me, well, email me or talk to me afterwards, or you have a real big one, give it to me right now. Good. I'm telling you right now, when we finish this, I want what you see and hear to be resonating in your ear, not somebody else's question. And so I'm going to decline to do that tonight. And most of the time, I don't do it. If you're really in tune with what we're doing tonight, I promise you I'm going to answer your questions. And I'm going to cover stuff that's going to be new to you, but I'm also going to cover stuff that isn't new at all. The Constitution, the oath of office, personal and individual liberty, America, American ideals, and how we get all those back is going to be a very simple solution. It's not easy to implement, but it is a simple solution. We swear an oath in God's name to uphold and defend the Constitution. We understand that oath. We know and understand the Constitution, and we do it and we apply it every day in our jobs. Did you know that the most important thing that a patrol officer can do is keep his oath of office, uphold and defend the Constitution? That's it. We put liberty first. We put American ideals first, and we keep our word to uphold and defend the Constitution. There you go. That's the solution, and it's peaceful, and it's effective. We're going to cover that tonight. So, they brought me ice water, all right. So, the miracles that have happened in my life that brought all this together are so numerous we could spend the entire evening talking about that. It's nothing that I did, because all of us know where miracles come from. I didn't do it. I mean, I wrote a book. It's kind of funny. I wrote the book, Are You a David? And I didn't even bring any tonight. I thought I sent them out, and I didn't. But they have the book that was plagiarized by me, or about me, because now the new book is The David Answer. So, Are You a David? And then they have the David Answer. I love being plagiarized. It's the greatest form of flattery that there ever was. And I really like the people who wrote it, the friends of Medjugorje. And I've been out to Caritas several times, as Gary and his wife will know. And I want to thank Gary and Pam for all the work that they did to put all this together. It's amazing. They've been absolutely fantastic. But I want to thank all of you again for being here. We're going to have an amazing night. And I'm going to share one miracle with you. First, how I even ran for sheriff was a miracle. I wasn't even thinking about that. I didn't want to do it. And my wife's parents just kept calling us and say, you got to move home and run for sheriff. And both my wife and I, for the first time, agreed that her parents were crazy. It's the first time, okay? And so, as it progressed, my wife and I told my wife, and I said, we just got to sit down one night before we went to bed. I said, let's write all the pros and cons. Why we're not moving home and running for sheriff, okay? And so we wrote all those down and sent them to him, and it meant nothing, especially her mom. She doesn't ever take no for an answer. She doesn't understand the word. It's out of her vocabulary. And so we really put it out of our minds. We're not doing it, okay? And one day, and this is in Provo, Utah, where I was a cop. This book, that picture is when I was a cop in Provo. Yes, that's 35 years ago. And the proper role of law enforcement. And I put some things I put my own personal conversion story in here. Not to the gospel, but to the Constitution. I was a rookie cop, and I started studying the Constitution because of all the things I saw in government just really bothered me. And so I said, well, I'm gonna start studying my oath of office and the Constitution, and I did. And I didn't have one of these pocket-sized constitutions. I got the World Book Encyclopedia, and great big old book, and I put it in my patrol car, and I studied it and studied it and studied it. And I was totally converted to the Constitution. And so one day I was a detective at the time, and I specialized in crimes against children. And it was a horrible job in a lot of ways, because I saw these things that happen to children from their own family and parents sometimes. It was just, it was horrible. And in fact, I love telling police stories, but I don't ever talk about those. And in fact, I want to get those out of my mind a lot of times. And so I went somewhere in uniform, and I don't know where it was. It must have been a parade or something. I had to be in uniform. And I got home, and I was looking at my wife, and I could tell something was on her mind, and something just hit me. And I turned to my wife, and I said, I'm never going to wear this uniform again. She goes, I know, that's what I was just thinking. And 3 weeks later, we moved home and ran for sheriff. And I don't know, neither one of my wife can tell you really why that happened. We didn't want to do it. And I just picked up my family, took leave from Provo, and put my kids in school in Arizona, and where I was raised as a boy, and my wife was raised there. Both our parents lived there. My dad was an FBI agent there. And we ran for sheriff. I hadn't even lived there for 12 years. I'd never worked as a peace officer in the state of Arizona or in my county. And I walked in town and worked my tail off. The whole family did, especially my wife. And I was elected, barely. And then 4 years later, in 1992, I was reelected. And my wife and I would talk sometimes about, why this miracle of being sheriff? Nothing's happened. What was the miracle for? So I could help old ladies across the street? Or so I could handle the DUIs? Or I could, what? I didn't see it. And then I went to this meeting in Phoenix with the Sheriff's Association, and there's only 15 counties in Arizona. It's the 6th largest state, but there's only 15 counties. And my county was the fourth smallest, but we had them this meeting. There's only 13 sheriffs there, 2 didn't show, and there's 3 agents there of the BATF. Everybody know what that is? Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They're federal agents that oversee gun licensures and gun ownership, and they're basically tracing all our guns. Okay, and they were there, and they handed us a document that detailed our marching orders as to what we had to do to comply with the Brady Bill. And all the sheriffs are just looking at each other, and you can hear all this murmuring and cussing, and it's really it's getting bad. And these 3 agents of the BHF are kind of like getting, okay, why is everybody mad at us? And so I told the agents, I said, you 3 guys know that we don't work for you, right? They go, well, that's kind of changed now because Congress passed a law. And I said, I don't care if Congress passes 500 laws. We don't work for you. Okay? You can't pass a law of something you have no authority to pass a law on in the first place. We don't work for you. And they just kind of shrugged, and they said, well, we've done our job. These are your marching orders. Okay, see ya. And every sheriff was so against it and really mad because in the Brady Bill itself, it It has a threat to arrest the sheriffs if we fail to comply. So if we say no to the feds, we can get a year in prison, a $10,000 fine, or both. And I'll show you that threat as we go along with this. I'll actually show you the threat so people don't think I make these things up. As a matter of fact, there's going to be very few times while we're together tonight that I will give you my opinions. This isn't my opinion. I didn't travel all this way to bore you with a bunch of opinions. I brought you the evidence that what my thesis is, that the sheriffs can do this. And I was just talking to Sheriff Tom Hodgson in Massachusetts about a month ago. We were talking about all the horrible things at the border, all the horrible things going on, all of the gun control, everything else. He said, Sheriff, and he knows I knew this because he's been to our conferences before. He said, it's really amazing. The sheriffs of this country can stop all of it. And he told the absolute truth. It's true. They can, we can, and we must. Because I see no other way to do it without violence. And I don't want to go there. I won't. I refuse. In fact, as Christians and as Americans, we have an obligation to exhaust all peaceful means that we can to make sure that does not happen. And as Thomas Paine said, we fight now so that our children won't have to later. We can keep this a peaceful revolution. We can and we must. So, back to the miracle of me running for sheriff. So, after that meeting with the Sheriff's Association, I decided on my way home, I had a 2.5 hour drive to get back home. As soon as I pulled up in my driveway, it hit me. Not my decision, but it hit me. I'm going to sue my own federal government. The Clinton administration. I'm going to sue the Clintons. Oh, yay, I'm so glad. I get to sue the Clintons. You know, and so, and I'm going to tell you, I was scared. I really was. And then I felt like Ratevia in The Fiddler on the Roof. I know we're the chosen people, but why can't you choose somebody else some of the time? And I just felt like I was just kind of, oh, you think I'm going to sue the Clintons? The wife in there, in the house I'm going to go tell this to now, is going to say, absolutely not. You don't know her. Well, you should. So I went in the house and I tell her what's going on. And she goes, maybe now we know why you were supposed to be sheriff. Folks, man, you don't want to marry a wife like that, you know? You want her to play her part better. No! Go golfing! You know, this is crazy. She never faltered one iota from her decision to go ahead and do this. If she had said no, this would have never happened. Never. Okay? And so the miracle starts, and the miracles after miracles. A small town sheriff, Graham County, Arizona, takes this case for the first time that a sheriff ever did anything like this in the history of America, goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and wins. A major landmark decision. Yeah, thank you. So, did you see some more miracles in there? When I stood at the Supreme Court in December of 1996, I was absolutely in awe. It was more than awe-inspiring. It was a spiritual experience being in there. And Sheriff Prince from Montana was with me. He was the second one that filed. But at the time, when we first filed, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing this by myself. And they're going to squash me like a pumpkin seed. And that was even scary. So I heard on CBS Morning News that Sheriff Prince had filed in Montana. And I go, oh, thank God. You know. And then 5 other sheriffs also did so. But get this. There's 3,086 sheriffs in America. 7 did this. 7. And not only that, only 1 from Texas. And this is a states' rights, state autonomy, state sovereignty, and gun case. And 1 sheriff from Texas, Sheriff J.R. Koog from Valverde County. So folks, again, the miracles just kept happening because if the other sheriffs hadn't done it, we would have been stopped at the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco because Sheriff Prince and I are both in that same circuit. We lost there. we got overturned. We won at the district court, both of us. In fact, everybody won at the circuit. The 6 out of 7 sheriffs, all of us won except the one from Texas. How do you lose that case in Texas? Maybe it was that judge that moved in from Chicago. Yeah, so I don't know. But okay, and so you get our CSPOA lapel pin, and you get a bunch of these. You should be handing these out. You will not believe, and yes, you will tonight, because I'm going to show you a lot of quotes from the Supreme Court decision, and then the county sheriff, America's last hope, and you can get all that for a real. I think all of that. Yes, what, $25, right, for all that? Okay, good. All right, I just gave the price. Okay, good. So, folks, let's bless each other tonight, and we're going to really have a great time. And I promise you, you're going to stay awake, because that person next to you is going to keep jabbing you. And this information is going to absolutely startle you. And it's going to give you hope. And you're going to feel hopeful after we leave here tonight. And people will say after, this is the first time I've really had hope in a long time. And I said, you couldn't give me any better compliment in the world than to tell me that. But folks, this is it. Hope is from God. And I am part of a message here, and there is no question that this miracle has brought me to this location and to this time, and for America to get back to its foundation, and that excites me. So, as a matter of fact, Saturday I'll be in Lander County with this big, huge celebration they're doing for becoming the first CSPOA county member. And the 5 members of the county commission there voted unanimously to do that. Voted unanimously to become members of the CSPOA, and they're having a big celebration. And Dr. Simone Gold is coming to speak there, and she's wonderful, and now we're best friends. I met her in Reno, and so she's going, and the whole community, the whole town is coming. The kids are coming to sing, and there's going to be all sorts of games and family fairs and food, and it's all because they're going to be a member of the CSPOA. And they're doing all that for us, and they're paying me $2,500 for the membership. And now we hope to take this to your counties and take this all across the country so that every county is doing this. We're not just a sanctuary for the Constitution. We're a member of the CSPOA that does this full time and wants to make this happen. And I'm going to tell you again, CSPOA is not the important thing. We're a means to an end. The end is the important thing. Restoring our Constitution as the supreme law of the land is the goal here. Thus, restoring liberty to each of us. Now, we've all been through a horrible past 16 months, haven't we? Yeah. It's been absolutely horrible. And on December 8th, I got COVID, and I got it really, really bad. So I'm not doubting that virus exists. What I doubt and what I don't believe is everything they told us about it. And then what I doubted even more is that any public official had any authority to tell us how to have Thanksgiving, tell us to stay home from church, and arrest ministers and people going to church, arrest us for not wearing a mask, and stop us from going to school anymore. The destruction of liberty that happened during the past 15, 16 months has been totally and completely evil and unconstitutional. And that anybody complied is part of the problem. And I will tell you, I still comply when I go on airplanes, because you either have that stupid mask on or you don't fly. However, most of the time I could just keep it over my mouth and still breathe freely out of my nose. They're kind of getting wise to me on that. And so I follow their own rules on that. So I buy Cheez-Its every time, and I'm snacking on Cheez-Its all the way on the plane, so I keep my so I can keep my mask off. So there's always ways around things. But the principle of the thing is we shouldn't have been doing it at all, and this should not have happened. And so the question I want to ask the people of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King's followers and his staunch supporters of the 1960s, if this had happened, that finally somebody, the public officials, the president, governors, and other people in public service would have said this to Martin Luther King and his followers. And I would have been one of them. I totally supported the civil rights movement. I lived through a lot of it. And I was in high school and junior high at the time, throughout the 60s, graduated from high school in 71. But I totally support it. I believe in equality and I believe in civil rights for all men, for all mankind, for all women, everybody, all of us. I totally believe in that. I believe in equality. I believe that part in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. I totally believe that and accept it and love it. I love it. So if public officials, the president included especially, had gone to Martin Luther King and his followers and said, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure your God-given freedoms are protected and secured. We're going to guarantee your civil rights. We're going to make sure that we don't go backward on that, and that Jim Crow laws are gone, and we will make sure that your rights are protected, secured, and defended. And we are not going to backpedal on that. Time out. Unless there's a crisis or an emergency or a pandemic, then we're going to suspend it all, and you'll just have to trust us, and we'll give it back to you when the pandemic's over.
Yeah.
How many of them would have accepted that? How many of them, oh yes, that's what we want, sure, we'll join. Yes, do that to us. Everything that we have fought for the last 150 years, you can just control by your whims. Who would have accepted that? And why are we doing it now then? Why are we accepting any of that? And as a matter of fact, some of those staunch Martin Luther King followers are the ones supporting this sort of thing. And I can't believe that they could do such a thing. Freedom is too precious to throw around like that. And I'm not ever going to go along with this. Okay? We must stand, and the sheriffs can stop all of this, and they should be making sure that no other businesses are arresting people for trespass for not wearing a mask. That's ridiculous. And the sheriff Sheriff Chronister in Florida actually arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown for having church. And then he held a press conference and bragged about it. He held a press conference for talking about charging a man with 2 minor misdemeanors. Since when do we hold press conferences for that? Ridiculous. This whole thing has been so backwards and unconstitutional, un-American, and a foundation for a what? A complete dictatorship and communist takeover of America. And these self-appointed dictators have no authority to do anything that they did. None. No authority whatsoever. And boy, when they scare us, we just fall in line, don't we? And fear-mongering is the best way to get people motivated to do anything. And so, how many lies did we hear all about this all the time, you know? And I remember watching a press conference with Fauci about 10 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, because somebody in the press said, well, Dr. Fauci, how about when will we possibly have a vaccine? Anybody else hear that? I was really interested in it. His answer was, it would take at least 2 years, and more like 2 to 10 years to get that. And he says there's no way you could have it possibly any sooner than 2 years, because it has to be properly tested. My dear friends, has it been properly tested? No. You are its proper test. Anybody going to get it, you are testing it for them. You are the guinea pig. And I'll tell you what, if they had offered me that vaccine when I was sick and I felt like I was on my deathbed, I would have never taken it then. Never. As a matter of fact, my nephew is a nurse at a COVID unit in Phoenix. He came by and I think helped save my life because he gave me an IV because I couldn't keep anything down. I was so sick. I mean, so sick. I've never been that sick. And then he said, Uncle, whatever you do, don't go to the hospital. I said, I'm already not. My wife and I have already talked about it. Aunt Dawn and I have already talked about it. He said, I'm not going. He says, you won't come out. Right. Don't go. And he's not even a right-wing nut like I am. He's not at all, you know? So, all right. So this is what I want you to see. I'm going to show you a lot of things here that will show you the evidence that what I'm talking about. I will show you the proof, okay? Again, not my opinion, okay? I'm going to show you so you know, and you can hopefully take a lot of this home with you so that you can keep this with you, give it to other people, especially these Supreme Court decisions. This is a highlighted version of all the Supreme Court main stuff in this case. It is amazing. This is a miracle. How many miracles did I mention to you earlier? 5? This is the big one. Absolutely miraculous. The most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of America. Right here. What I did is I looked at the decision and went through all the stuff, put the highlights, the best stuff in this little thing you can read in 10 minutes. Or you can go online and read the whole case and study it out like I did for several days. So it's really a long one. Okay? So, right here, I want you to know and understand. Well, you finally get to see me right there, didn't you? Okay, you're going to see what we're really after at the CSPOA. This clip is the sound working on this? I guess I'll find out.
The YouTube video.
No, it isn't.
Go ahead. Play it.
You're going to put that on it? Let's see how that goes.
Going viral, posted on the internet by 2 activists who brought a camera into the Albany International Airport while they passed out flyers. Now, it led to a heated dispute over First Amendment rights. Beth Wortman has our top story. Beth?
Hi, Benita. Well, as you'll see in the video clip, an airport spokesman tries to stop these activists from their mission, but a sheriff's deputy steps in to settle the confrontation and the right to free speech.
So, hey everyone, this is Ashley Jessica. I am here at Albany International Airport.
The young woman is standing outside the security checkpoint at the airport, telling the camera that she's there to hand out flyers to travelers, reminding them of their right to opt out of getting the body scan, which she claims carries health risks.
Yeah, it's on your website.
Hold on. First of all, turn this off right away.
Airport spokesman Doug Myers tells the crew to stop videotaping and to go downstairs, which they agree to do, and they are confronted again.
Do you have $1 million insurance policy here? You're violating the airport authority guidelines. You haven't paid. That doesn't matter to us at all, okay?
So the TSA doesn't matter?
No, you're in our airport.
But as the tension builds, Sheriff's Deputy Stan Lennox steps in, separating the two parties, then lays down the law.
Obviously, this is your constitutional right, okay? As far as we're concerned, you're not breaking any laws, okay? That's what we want to get across to you guys.
What? Who is he? What is he, judge? This is exactly what we want from every deputy and patrol officer in the United States. That he knows and understands what is the constitutional rights of these people who are passing out flyers in an airport. You're not breaking any law, he said. This is your constitutional right. And then he even goes a little further and puts the airport manager in his place.
Myers objects, ordering airport employees to allow only ticketed passengers upstairs, accusing the activists of blocking the escalator. But once again, Deputy Lennox defends their First Amendment right.
Okay, so that means we're doing it for, I told you, Brian, I am Jason Burmis.
Let me see your identification.
I don't need to show you my identification. He doesn't have to show you his identification.
The activists continue their...
He doesn't have to show you anything. He hasn't done anything wrong, and he doesn't have to answer to you. This deputy, how many thousands of these guys would you want across America? About 100, 200,000? Yeah. You know, this is all we're after. We just want all the deputies and patrol officers in this country versed in the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, so that when they come to your home, when they come to your party, when they come to your Thanksgiving dinner that you're doing illegally, that they know to defend you. And they understand that you're American citizens simply exercising your rights that were guaranteed to you when you were born. And this is the type of constitutional officer that we want to create all over. So when I found out about Deputy Lennox, we invited him to our 2013, that's how long ago this was, 2013 CSPOA convention. The year that Sheriff Clark from Wisconsin was our CSPOA Constitutional Sheriff of the Year. Well, Lennox was our Constitutional Deputy Sheriff of the Decade. Because this doesn't happen very often, and we really wanted to make a big deal out of it. And I really loved his supervisors who said, yeah, told him to, yeah, go get your plaque from the CSPOA. So, folks, do you see a solution there brewing? This is exactly what we're talking about. How bad could that have situation gone the other way? And these people get slammed to the hard floor and then get charged with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and so many other charges, you know, that would be just absolutely ridiculous. Or we can do the de-escalation by using the Constitution and a constitutional officer. Do you see the de-escalation here? Nothing happened, except the rights of the people were defended by a person who swore an oath to do just that, and he actually did it. Boy, don't you love it when everything works? Now imagine sheriffs all across the country doing exactly that and training their deputies to do that. This is the answer. Now we also go to exactly what the answer is not. Wait. Hello. Nope. Why is that doing that? Oh, wait. That's because that's out. There we go.
Now to a News 10 exclusive. A Stockton man wants an apology tonight for a wake-up call he should have never received. It is a story you'll only see on News 10. Lee Painter tells us why police and federal agents knocked down his door.
This is what they did to my door.
At 6 this morning, a SWAT team surprised Kenneth Wright at his front door.
In my underwear. In my underwear. Before I get to the door, I hear him say, "Hit it." And I get ready to hit the door, and they hit the door. They almost hit me. So I said, "Hold on." They hit it again. I said, "Hold on."
But the SWAT team busted in, taking Wright.
They come grab me by my neck and drag me out my house to right there in the grass.
Thrown to the ground and handcuffed, law enforcement then searched his house.
And they put me in the backseat of a police car for over 6 hours. From 6 o'clock to 12:30, they had me handcuffed in the back of a police car with nothing on but my ripped up underwear that they ripped in the yard.
Wright says they also woke his 3 children, holding them for 2 hours. But they failed to find their quarry, Wright's estranged wife. Wright later complained to Stockton's mayor and police, but the city pointed to the U.S. Department of Education.
They say you owe a student loan.
Yeah, you got to watch that student loan stuff. It was a SWAT team from the U.S. Department of Education. And guess who it was from? Eric Holder and Barack Obama. They're the ones doing this. Okay? Quite astonishing. And so she goes on and she says, well, the Solicitor General said, no, it wasn't, but we can't talk about the case because it's still ongoing. Well, it had nothing to do with him. It was his estranged wife who didn't even live there, and they weren't married when she got the student loan in the first place. So why is it his problem? It's not. And so I started checking on this to see if the Solicitor General was lying about whether or not they were doing this all over the country. Found out they did the same thing to a black man in Houston, and they had 1,500 such warrants to serve in the Houston area. And this was Stockton, California. I don't know, I never learned how many they had in California, but I would imagine it was about the same. But they had 1,500 to still serve then. You know, have any of you ever won a lawsuit against a neighbor or somebody messed up your car and you sued them? Somebody messed up my car once, and I sued them and I won. Do you know how you get paid? Well, it's really hard sometimes. But because you win, but they don't pay, and they move around or they leave the country, and you never get paid. Wouldn't it be great to have your own SWAT team? To be able to go and collect like that? This is a civil matter. This is on a loan from the government for school, for heaven's sakes. They're even giving it all back to them now. But here they're serving a warrant with a no-knock warrant. A no-knock felony warrant. And she doesn't even live there anymore. Who they were after. Oh my God. You see, and Stockton PD went with him and supported him and said, oh yeah, everything, fine. No. If a sheriff really knows his job, he's going to look at that warrant before they even get there, and he's going to go, what? You guys are serving a warrant on a student loan? Not in my county, you're not. Get out of here. You know, you want to take him to court, go take her to court. But that's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter, and it certainly isn't going to be happening in my county where you're busting in doors with a felony search warrant for the Department of Education. God, come on. Okay, so there's two types of laws, right? I bet everybody in here will agree with this quote, okay? And you could guess who said this, okay? And no, it wasn't me. There are two types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Makes sense to everybody, right? Yeah, I agree with that. On the other hand, who's supposed to determine what is just and unjust? Well, only the U.S. Supreme Court can do that, huh? Well, take it from me. I found out how many court cases the Supreme Court actually takes every year. They take about 1% of all the cases that go across their desk. 1%. Let's say it's 10. Let's say it's 10%, which it's not. Let's say it's 10. That means 90% of the cases will never go there. And that means the abuse just keeps on going. Can we really get every abusive situation and statute and act and bill to the Supreme Court in time to save us all? No, we can't. In fact, they refuse to hear a lot of them. So what does that do? That still puts it back on your sheriff and your local officials. Are they going to force you to obey this stuff? Are they going to enforce this on you? I've heard some sheriffs say, I will do anything to the people I feel like until the Supreme Court tells me not to. Whoa. Now there's an attitude that you really need to unelect next time. But we had a good group of sheriffs there this morning. I really felt good about them. And they heard all this and they saw all this, and I think we really planted some seeds. But with one sheriff, Sheriff Marks, man, he was already on board. He could have helped me teach the class. Whoever has that sheriff, man, stick with him. What a great sheriff, okay? He had already read all my books. He had followed me even way before he was sheriff. He already is on board with this. And what a fantastic sheriff. And you know what he's doing tomorrow? He's sending all his deputies to the training. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so, does anybody know whose quote this is? Aha. Nope. Anybody more current? That is absolutely correct. Martin Luther King. And you see, why do I put that up there? Well, one, it's true. And boy, don't you want to just share that with all of his followers and people that really love and appreciate Martin Luther King? Yeah, he told us to disobey unjust laws. And I totally believe that, but I want to take that to the next level. There's not a single enforcement officer in this country that should be enforcing an unjust law. You really? I asked the sheriffs that this morning. Any of you think you should be enforcing an unjust law? And who makes that determination? You're going to wait for the Supreme Court to tell you how to do your job? Why don't you just learn the Constitution and enforce it? Live it. Love it. Do it. This is, you know who's responsible for the fulfillment of your oath? You are. You swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Okay? What does that presuppose? You know it. You read it. You studied it. Especially the Bill of Rights. So this morning, what did we do? We went over the Bill of Rights with a fine-tooth comb. There's only 10 of them. Yet, how many principles of freedom are mentioned in the Bill of Rights? It's not 10, is it? There's 5 in number 1. Right? Okay? That's real easy to remember. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. The right to peaceably assemble, and the right to petition government for a redress of grievances. Try that sometime, see how far it gets you. Yeah, it won't, okay? So, there's 28, depending on what you interpret here and there, because like in number 8, it mentions 4, no excessive fines or bail. So is that 2 or is that just 1? And then it says no cruel and unusual punishment. So is cruel and unusual the same thing? So that's one. So seriously, when you look all through them, there could be 27, 28, maybe 29. 30 at the very most. Principles in the Bill of Rights. What is the purpose? What was the purpose? What was the intent of the Founding Fathers in developing the Bill of Rights? Did you know that the Bill of Rights came 2 years later? After the Constitution. After they spent this arduous, hot, humid summer in Independence Hall in Philadelphia, blood, sweat, and tears and compromises that totally saved a bicameral Congress with a House of Representatives and a United States Senate. That compromise saved the entire Constitution. So both sides of the small states and the big states all were appeased. And what a great compromise. And James Madison was considered the father of the Constitution. And then 2 years later, some of the more radical founding fathers came to him and said, what are we doing here? What happened? We missed something. We forgot to do something, James. And Madison gets mad. He's not, what? You guys, this was so inspired. We prayed every day and we loved it and the compromise. And he said, Patrick Henry and John Hancock and Samuel Adams were the main ones who were telling this to Madison. We didn't do a Declaration of Rights. And Madison goes, you're right, we have to go back. And Madison called everybody back. And they went back to the Constitutional Convention in Independence Hall. And you know how many they came up with? If we had to come up with it today, if we had to come up with a Bill of Rights, I mean, I know we'd still have the Second Amendment and we'd still have freedom of religion. How many others would we come up with today?
Maybe 8,000.
No math, no math. Well, the Founding Fathers came up with 189. You know, you can imagine all the abuses that they suffered during this whole horrible reign of King George III. We would probably do the same, but they dwindled them down to 12. There was a lot of duplication, and they dwindled them down to 12. And the real power source, the states, ratified 10. And that became the supreme of the supreme laws of the land. A list of untouchables. A list of rights, God-given rights, that government could never touch or change or alter. Now, the Second Amendment has over 20,000 gun control laws. Over 20,000. And they want more, and they want to come confiscate your horrible, evil-looking AR-15s and AK-47s and blah, blah. Oh, they're awful looking. And they're going to try to fearmonger again to come and get those from you. And you know what? There's not enough federal agents to come and get them, is there? So they're going to have to ask local help, aren't they? And that's where it stops. So far we have over 300 sheriffs that have written letters to Biden telling them, don't come do that in their county. We need about 1,000 more, and then we're going to get somewhere.